introduce myself. So hold on one second here. Set this up for everyone. All right. So my name is Officer Olson, Garrett Olson. So I have been with the Greenfield Police Department in Wisconsin here for almost 8 years. I have a little bit of kind of what our department does, not too prevalent on kind of what we're talking about today, but you can kind of see on the screen there what our specific department, all our different niches and kind of tasks and things that we do. So a little bit about me, just before we get started here. I'm an arson investigator. So that's something where if there's a fire, house fire, vehicle fire, those are, I guess, the two main things that we usually go to. I can be called out to the scene and go through it more for an arson side of it. 9 times out of 10, we usually just do undetermined because I'm not trained as much as the private sector with insurance and stuff like that. I'm also on our honor guard, so any ceremonies, funerals, things of that nature, I take part in that. And then I'm also a property officer. So if we have any evidence that gets brought into our PD, I organize that, put that into our big evidence room so it can be found if we need it for any trials or things like that. So we'll get started with presentation here. So we're going to talk about kind of some scams, identity theft, fraud, all that kind of stuff. So just to get kind of started here, scams to watch out for. We're going to start off with the phone first. So nowadays, most people have a cell phone. I know landlines are kind of going on the wayside, but you may get calls on the landline if you still do have a landline. The nice thing about cell phones now is when you get a phone or when you get a phone call, it may say scam likely already on there. So don't answer that. The other part though is not all the time is it going to give you that alert that it could be a scam. What I've seen in my line of work is they'll use a 414 number or a 608 number, 262 number, something that looks like a Wisconsin number or someone that you may know. So they'll use those numbers. So when you see that, oh, I'm in Milwaukee County, 414 number's calling me. All right, I'll answer it. And then it could be a scam. You never know. So what I usually tell people is if you don't know the number, don't answer it. If it's somebody important, say it's your doctor or it's your bank or here, one of the financial advisors calling you, they'll leave a message, call back the number that you know, or look up the number. If it was Aurora calling for something, look up the number for your doctor, call that number. Don't just take their word for it. I've had that happen to me where I call people when I'm on my job. They don't think I'm a real cop. So I'll tell them, no, I am. And then I'll give them they always ask for my badge number. I'll give them my badge number. They'll actually end up calling the police department, confirming who I am. And then I'm like, well, I didn't know. It's like, I get it. I'd rather have you be safe than sorry. So watch out for those kinds of calls. They'll act as a sales rep. So they may be calling saying, hey, I'm from Honda City. You just won a new car, something like that. Probably didn't win a new car. And so they act as a reputable person. They may not actually be. The one gentleman I was talking to earlier, they call and say, hey, you won the lottery. You won $2,000. Need your information. I need your name. I need your address, where I'm going to send this money to. Don't give that information out. It's a scam. They're not sending you money. Or they may ask, hey, we need your bank account information so we can direct deposit this winnings that you just won into your bank account. And then you give them your routing number, your checking account number, and now all of a sudden they have that. Now they have access to your bank account, and you're not actually getting their money. They're going to be taking your money. So watch out for that. Government official, the IRS. IRS will never call you. If somebody calls you claiming they are with the IRS, hang up the phone. Do not give them any information. They will give you, or the IRS will send you snail mail, the postage from the post office. If the IRS needs to get in contact with you, they will send you a letter, not call you on the phone. The grandparent scam there. My grandma actually had this happen. Thankfully, she didn't fall for it. I don't call my grandma. I call her something else. So when she answered the phone, the person on the line was, Grandma, I need your help. I just got in a crash. I need like $1,000 to get my car out of the impound lot or whatever it was. And she knew right away. I don't call her grandma. None of my cousins call her grandma. So she knew right away it was a scam. But these people like to play on that. They'll find the elder community, call those numbers because they feel like the elder community is a little bit more sympathetic. They play on their emotions. They try to act as a grandchild, or if you have kids, like your son or daughter or something like that, they'll try to play on those emotions. Hey, I really need help. Mom and dad aren't helping me out. I just need $500. Okay, yeah, I can send you money. And then they send money, and now you're out that $500. It actually wasn't a relative of yours. So be careful about that. Like I said, kind of with the smartphones now, you have caller ID. So if you do have relatives, I would hope you have their number saved in your phone as their name. So if a number pops up you don't know and they're claiming like to be me and I'm not your grandson, don't fall for that. So outside of the phone, which I guess nowadays it could be on your phone because a lot of smartphones, you have access to your email. So what I kind of have up there, as you guys can see, is phishing. So they will send emails portraying as a reputable company or business. They may have a URL, which is your address there. They may have it as Landmark Credit Union, but instead of like a .com, they may have .uk or something that's not the actual URL. It looks very similar, very accurate. You know, you may just glance at it and see, oh, it's Landmark. My bank through Landmark. Okay, I'll open it. Well, now you may have just downloaded a virus that can take over your computer or your phone, and they can get anything that's saved on there. So be very conscious of what you're clicking on when it comes to your emails. My grandma, she goes through emails all the time. That's how she usually gets in contact with me. She sends me an email, sees how I'm doing, how the kids are doing, all that kind of stuff. Instead of calling me, I don't know why, but she'd rather go through email. However, I have her in my email address as grandma. Two different grandmas. One I don't call grandma, the other one I call grandma. So I have her in there as grandma. I get an email every week with her actual legal name as the sender. Well, I know it's not my grandma because she's not saved in my contact list as her legal name. It's grandma to me. So I know that right away is not actually my grandma, and those just go straight to my trash and block that, spam it, all that kind of stuff. So just as like kind of what I said before, just be careful on the emails that you're clicking on, the links that may be in the emails, be careful with what those are. Kind of back to the phone thing. If you don't know who it is or you're not expecting an email from someone, it may be a scam. So just be careful with that. As you can see here, the little picture there, you're a winner for postage mail. So through the U.S. Postal Service. You may receive letters that say, hey, you, like I mentioned before about the car dealership, you won a car or you won the lottery. Call this number to accept the winnings, something like that. Trash. Throw it in the garbage. If you didn't actually sign up for something, or you're like, you went to bingo night and you signed up for something and you know that you may be winning something like a raffle or something like that. Okay, yeah, maybe it might be legit, but if you never signed up for anything, it may be a scam. And if you're ever curious about it, take it to someone that can help you with it. Bring it to us. We can take a look at it. If you have relatives and you trust them, hey, I got this in the mail. Can you just look at it? I'm not really sure. It looks like it might be true. I don't remember if I signed up for something, and then they can kind of help you. If it has to deal with bank stuff, bring it here, bring it to your actual bank, things like that. Get somebody that you trust to look at it and then let you know, hey, this isn't real, or yeah, it is real. So kind of what I've already talked about with the phones, hang up, utilize your caller ID, talk to someone. Like with the grandparent scam, they're claiming to be your grandchild. Call them, hang up, actually call them, or call your son or daughter. Get that actual confirmation from them. No, that wasn't me. I don't know who that was. So then you know for sure that you're not giving out any money to somebody you don't know. And like I touched on before, don't give out any information over the phone, social security number, bank account information. Don't give that out over the phone. Computer scams, what can you kind of do to help prevent that from happening? Back up your data. So if you have an external hard drive, you can back it up onto that. Strong passwords, change your passwords. I know it's difficult and kind of time consuming. Like, well, I use this password for everything. I have 30 passwords I gotta remember. It's always good to just change them out pretty regularly, so somebody can't just hack into your account. If they know your email address, they start punching in passwords, and make the passwords harder. Don't have it be your last name and your birthday. That's pretty easy to find out. A lot of information is on the internet. You can get your address, you can get people's names from the internet. If you're on social media and you have it on public and you have your birthday on there, it's pretty easy to access that too. So don't have it be you live on Layton Avenue and your last name's Olson like mine, and you put your password as Layton Olson. Pretty easy to figure out because I live on Layton, my last name's Olson. So try to make your passwords harder, use different, use numbers, use like the exclamation points, all that kind of stuff. What I talked about with the emails, don't click on unknown emails. You don't know what you might be opening with links, things like that. Utilize an antivirus, malware protection. I'm not an IT guru. I can't really give you any insight on, hey, this is the best type of computer security system. The Windows Defender, if you have a PC, that is pretty sufficient enough for what you may be doing on there. If you're going more online and accessing different sites and things like that, you may want to look into something a little bit more robust of a security system than just the main Windows Defender that comes on PCs. Is your Wi-Fi secure? Most residential Wi-Fis and even companies are pretty secure. You usually have to have a password to get into your Wi-Fi. So just make sure that's secure. This kind of goes more on to like a company thing. Make sure the Wi-Fis are secured. Limit your access. Don't be clicking on every single link that pops up when you're browsing the internet. You don't know what you might be clicking on or having a virus come onto your computer. Careful with sharing your screens. If someone calls you, says, hey, I'm with Spectrum, and we notice that you've been paying way too much for your internet, which I wish I would get that call. But then they say, well, if you can just log on to your computer, and then can you share your screen with me? And then they give you some type of code and email address or something like that. And then you should end up sharing your screen. Now they have access to your computer, and now they can control the mouse and get into any documents you may have saved on there. Get rid of data that you don't need. If you save all your documents on your computer, or even just paper ones, get rid of it. You know, if you have your taxes back from 1990, shred them. You probably don't need those ones anymore. So same with on your computer. If you have a document on there from 2010, and you're like, I haven't opened this document since 2010, probably okay to get rid of that. And then old equipment, the newer equipment that comes out has better antivirus protection, things like that. They're faster, things like that. If you don't want to be using, the first Mac, Apple, big computer that came out. So we'll kind of move on to a little bit of the identity theft section now. So on your screen, which if you want to write it down, you go right ahead, you can. These are the three major credit bureaus. You have Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. Yes, personal story real quick here. My grandma, she didn't fall for a scam, but her online banking was hacked into, and she lost a bunch of money that was taken out of her accounts. Thankfully, the bank kind of caught it. They were able to mostly reimburse all the money. All of it should be back hopefully this week. But what my dad did is I gave him this information. I was like, and the deputy that responded gave him this information too. Contact these three credit bureaus. It's actually not bad just to do. If you're not planning on buying a car, not planning on buying a house or getting a new credit card where your credit is going to be checked, it might not be bad just to contact these three credit bureaus, freeze your credit. That way, no one can take anything out under your name. Social Security fraud hotline. This one is a little tricky, as with everything in the federal government. So Social Security, if you believe your Social Security number has been compromised and things are starting to be taken out under your name, where most likely they're going to need your Social Security number to open them, you can contact the Social Security Administration, their fraud hotline. I don't know the exact dollar amount on what they can do. It may be as little as $100 was taken out of your name or something like that, or they opened up a credit card under your name, spent $100 on it. You can get your Social Security number changed if you feel that has been compromised. That's what they can do on that fraud hotline. But like I said, there is a dollar amount. It's a case by case thing. I can't give you an exact $10,000 was used under your name. You can get your number, your Social Security number changed. I don't know what that number is. That's something the Social Security Administration would be able to help you out with if you feel like that has happened. How to protect yourself from identity theft. You can ask your bank too. You can ask them to do a two-factor authentication for logging into your bank account online. A lot of the apps and online, like on the computer, that actually already have that kind of stuff in there already, where use your Face ID and a passcode, something like that. But in the actual bank, you can have that done too. You can have them request your ID and then maybe another form of ID as well to confirm it's you. Or you can tell them, I'm only going to be doing in-person transactions and I need an ID shown and a signature or something like that. the bank can help you out with that if you want to take those kind of steps. This next one and the second one, don't carry your social security card with you. You'd be surprised at how many people do. The reason, and I say that because a lot of people I've arrested and come in contact with, they have their social security card in their wallet or in their purse. The reason I say don't carry it, obviously you may need to carry it for certain reasons if you're going to get your passport or something like that. If you were ever to fall victim of a robbery or something like that, where someone comes up and snatches your purse, not only now do they have your ID, which most people carry with them if they're out and about, but now they have your social security card. So now they not only have your name and your address and date of birth, now they have your social security card. So now they have pretty much everything that they need to do whatever they want. Birth certificate, never seen anybody carry their birth certificate around, but there's always that chance somebody may be doing that. Don't carry that with you. Same kind of thing with the social security card. Passport every day. Obviously, if you're going overseas, something like that, yeah, you're going to need your passport with you. But if you're just every day going around, going to Pick and Save, going to Walmart, you don't need to be carrying your passport. That's just another form of ID. And if somebody gets that, they can get some information off of it for you. Don't put your social security number or phone number on checks. I've had some people in previous presentations I give said that they've done that before for like paying taxes and things like that. I'm not quite sure why. The people that you're sending the checks to need to have that on there. When I pay my mortgage now, I mainly do it online, but when I used to send checks and stuff, I never would write my social security number like in the memo area or put my phone number on there. They probably already have that information, so. Yeah. Yeah, and not a lot of people write checks anymore, but if you do still write checks, I mean, I still write checks every now and then. Just don't put those on there. Like the phone number, they probably will have it wherever you're sending it to, and the social security number, there's no reason you need to put that on there. The one thing why I have this in here is if you were to mail it and the mail gets lost. I mean, it happens all the time when mail gets shuffled around or it gets lost and it doesn't get to the person you're sending it to. Now a check with your routing number and your checking account number, and now your social security number is on there. So now they have, and usually your name and your address is on there too. So they have a lot of your information. Shred important documents. If you don't have a shredder, different places will have a shred bin. I think that's probably what that bin over there is for, that I saw some people bring in some stuff. Shred it if you don't need it anymore. I think I'm maybe a little paranoid when I just get from like a dealership that has my name and address on there, I shred that. I mean, probably don't need to do that because your name and your address is out there. But when you get credit card applications, things like that, other important documents, kind of like I mentioned before with tax documents, you don't need those anymore. It's been a certain amount of time. Shred those if you don't have a shredder, or if you do have one, just shred them. So that's kind of all the main stuff I had. These are just kind of some statistics that just for Greenfield, which if you want to hear, I can kind of just go over it. Just mainly our calls for service. So we hover right around 30,000 calls for service a year as a department. And of those 30,000, we take about 3,500, say about is the average of those calls actually turn into cases. So that's going to be your retail thefts. That's where we're actually writing out a report. We take somebody into custody, we write a report, or if we don't take somebody into custody and we're looking for that suspect, it still turns into a case. So about 8% of our calls actually generate a call or a case. For identity theft in Greenfield, this is a combination of forgery, counterfeiting, fraud, embezzlement, and identity theft. So far, I looked at it and I didn't update this PowerPoint, but so far this year, I think we're up to about 40 for this year alone, and we're not even 2 full months in. As you can see, 2022, 147 cases. And then last year, since I was off, I wasn't able to update it. And then the form that I used, since it was the new year and I missed New Year's Eve, I was only able to get it to the 17th. But 164 cases last year. So it was not a huge increase from the year prior, but it is out there. We do take a lot of them. I would say probably last year is probably close to 170 through the whole year. And like I said, we're almost up to 40 right now for this year. So if we stay on that track, we're going to blow last year's number out of the water, which we don't want to happen. So that's where hopefully with these presentations and things like that, you just being more self-conscious of what you're clicking on or who you're talking to on the phone. Hopefully that number, we can get that lower, because it is unfortunately a pretty big issue that we deal with quite a bit. So that's it that I have. So
So Officer Olson, thank you so much for taking the time tonight. What I would ask people to do, if you have a question, just click on the chat below and type in your question there.
Yeah, so I see the one question here. DMV asks for phone number on checks for new car tabs. Should we question that? I don't really understand why they would need your phone number on the check. I mean, I guess if they need to get in contact with you, then that's the way they can get in contact with you. Although your name and your address is on your check, where obviously they probably don't want to spend the money on sending a postage out to you, but I would maybe talk with the DMV. Like, why do we have to even put our phone numbers on here anymore? Yeah, for me, I don't really understand why you have to put it on there, but yes.
So Officer Olson, are you able to repeat the question? I know you have a group there at the office of people. Are you able to repeat it so we can hear it as well?
Yeah, so the question was asked, what's the highest amount that I've seen that has been taken from someone in my job, like cases that I've taken? The one that kind of comes to mind right away, which was pretty recent, that was close to $20,000. And that was, we actually were able to figure out who it was, because it was a female, had a boyfriend. They were at her house and her stepdad's wallet was in the garage. He ended up going, grabbing the debit card out of there, took down the number on the front, took the numbers down on the back and the expiration date, put it back in there. So it didn't seem like anything was wrong. And then 2-month hiatus and $20,000 later, the bank was able to reimburse that individual all the money. However, now then so I guess another snippet of when it comes to that type of fraud, you are initially the victim. It's your money. However, if the bank then reimburses you, the bank then becomes the victim. So if it were to go to any type of court trial, anything like that, usually now it's the bank that is appearing as the victim, because you've been reimbursed that money. Now the bank is out that money. So it's not, I guess, a little fun fact, I guess, for that. But if you use a third-party paying app, if you use Cash App, if you go through Facebook Pay, Apple Pay, things like that, you more than likely will not be reimbursed. It's through a third party. I actually, unfortunately, had experience with that. We were going to get a puppy. My wife found one on Facebook. They wanted a down payment for the dog, which we're like, okay, whatever. So it was $150. My wife sent through Facebook Pay $150 to the lady. Set up a time to meet. Hour goes by. Well, before we even got there, I was a little suspicious, and I should have took it upon myself to kind of do some investigating before, but I didn't. I just trusted my wife to go through it all. And
Are you still married?
yes, I'm still married. We have 2 kids, so still married. But yeah, so that with it being through Apple Pay, I called Landmark. That's who I banked through. They were not able to reimburse us because it was through a third party. I mean, that was only $150, but still $150 is $150. It's not 15 cents, which whatever. So they weren't able to reimburse us because it was through a third party. If it had come directly from my bank account through Landmark, like through my actual checking account, then yes, they would have been able to reimburse me. But since it was through a third party, those are meant to be used for someone you know. So if I go out to dinner with my parents, hey, let's split the bill. My parents end up paying for it all. All right, I'll send you $50 through Venmo or whatever. So that's what you want to use those apps for. Question on here, any suggestions on how to reduce the number of scam emails and phone calls? That's a hard one because yeah, I mean, I go through my email every day and I have about 200 emails at minimum every day, and probably 70% of them are ones that just go right into the trash bin. And then the other ones are ones that I actually will look at if they're from my bank or whatever it may be. The phone calls, that's another kind of hard one. You can have your phone provider block the phone numbers, but then what they'll do is then they'll just get a different phone number and then they'll call you with that different phone number. So it's harder to block those. For example, criminals, they'll use a different app than what I actually have. So there's an app specifically made for law enforcement where I can call somebody. So say you have a 414 number, I can dial your number. It'll generate a completely random 414 number that'll pop up on your phone. And if you don't answer it and I leave a voicemail, or if I don't leave a voicemail, I just hang up. If you try to call that number back, it'll actually say an officer was trying to reach you. But the ones that criminals use, it doesn't say that, but it'll generate a completely random number. And if you try calling that number or texting that number back, you usually won't get a response from it, because they'll use these apps that you can create different phone numbers, or they'll go out and they'll buy a phone, use it for a call, get rid of it, get another phone, that kind of stuff. So the phone calls is a little bit difficult to monitor how many you're getting. Yes.
Cautionary advice about data mining on social media, Facebook, and there's questions, kind of fun questions now. What high school you went to? Where was your first kiss? Stuff like that, and all of a sudden, criminals are data mining all of that, and they're building a profile.
Yeah.
So
So
for them to get to kind of pitch with leads, you know, for but they got you.
Yeah. So the question was about data mining, which on Facebook, you'll get those questionnaires that'll come out. Who was your first kiss? What street did you grow up on? What high school did you go to? Things like that. So I always try to tell people, don't post those answers on any type of social media. A lot of those questions that they use are those security questions that you have on your online banking. You know, what street did you grow up on? What was the name of your first pet? So what these people will do is they'll put these questionnaires out on Facebook and make it like it's a new fad. Hey, answer all these questions so we get to know you. And they'll have those very similar questions. They may not be worded the same, but they're trying to get that same type of answer from you. So then what these people will do is they'll, compile, okay, Garrett Olson, his first dog's name was Jack. I didn't have a dog named Jack, but so his first dog's name was Jack. Okay. And then if they can get access to your online banking and it asks for a security question, it says, what was Garrett's first dog's name? Type in Jack, boom, all of a sudden they're in. So be very conscious on those questions. Yes, they're fun. You're on Facebook, you're trying to get to know some of your friends, or you haven't talked to your high school friend in, 15, 20 years, and you're reconnecting and like, hey, what's going on? Where are you living now? All that kind of stuff. Like, yeah, they're fun, but once you post them on there, now it's for everyone to see. If you're going to do those kind of things, maybe just write them down and have friends over and you can have those questions answered in person, which is a lot more fun than on the internet when you actually get together with people. But what about Zelle, which is through my bank? Would I be reimbursed for that? Most likely not. Zelle is also a third-party one. There are certain scams where people will ask about Zelle. For some reason, I know Zelle is actually a pretty reputable app that you can use for money, just like Venmo and PayPal, things like that. But usually it has to be through your bank, because technically, like what I was talking about before with the Facebook Pay, that money wasn't just on there. That money came from our bank account, but they still wouldn't reimburse since it was a third party. What about home title theft? I have not personally heard about home title theft before. I have had people that had sold a car that wasn't their car. That's where they stole the vehicle and they were able to get the title and then forged the signature and all that and sold the vehicle that they weren't the actual owner of. But the home title theft, I have thankfully have not heard of, and hopefully that doesn't happen to anyone. Yeah, I'm not quite too sure on that question, unfortunately. If you make a mistake or are caught off guard on a computer scam, will logging off the site or even turning off your computer stop the attempt? Not necessarily. Sometimes if they get access to your computer, then they have access to it. If you turn it off, they could possibly turn it back on remotely. If you just close out of like the site or something like that, if they already have access to your computer, it doesn't really matter. They already have access to your computer. Turning off the computer, like I said, sometimes that will work. Like I said, they may have the ability to turn it on remotely, but if they don't, then they can't get access to anything if your computer's off. If that were to happen, I would go to Geek Squad, Best Buy, or another type of business like that to have them try to look through it, see if they can get rid of any viruses, things like that. Sometimes it might just be compromised and you just gotta completely get rid of it. Are the robocalls for police department donations legitimate or not? Most I know I only usually get those through State Patrol. Seems like they always send those out for State Patrol. I usually hang up. I got one this past winter or last year this winter, and one in the summer. And I believe it was the State Patrol. If I'm gonna donate, I'm just gonna go to a department and donate. I'm not gonna do it over the phone. So I guess I would kind of, for that question, if they're legitimate or not, I would just go to your department. If you feel the need that you want to donate to a police department, go to the department in person, talk to a sergeant or some type of higher up individual, say, hey, I'd like to make a donation for the department for their K-9 unit or for whatever it may be, and then just go through it that way instead of through the phone. I think that's all the questions on here so far.
Officer Olson, this is Carla. How many of these are resolved? How many of the claims that you bring in are actually resolved? Like what percent?
Ooh, percentage. I don't know if I can give an exact percentage on like cases that we've closed. I know we just had one from 2020, I believe it was, that is going to trial. So that's the other thing too, is it takes a very long time, especially some of these where it's overseas. That's very difficult to figure out who they are. What these criminal organizations do is they'll be based out over in India or Middle East or Europe, somewhere over there. And they'll use phones that will have American phone numbers. And they can actually ping off towers like down in Texas. I had one that was a Texas phone number, one that was a New York, kind of major areas that you would think of, New York City, Houston, San Diego, kind of those major metropolitan areas. So they'll use those kind of numbers to make it look more legitimate. Because if you're using a European phone and then plus the area code, so it looks totally different than what our phone numbers do. So the overseas ones are harder to figure out. We don't have the capability of sending our detectives out to Germany to go arrest a person. That's something the federal government, since they have more money than we do, they can afford to send people over there. Even when it comes to just in the States, like kind of I mentioned, there's one in Texas. I had a person that was scamming somebody out of Texas. I took it as far as I could take it, and then it gets pushed to our detective bureau. We have one individual, one main detective who he deals a lot in this type of white collar crime with banks and all that kind of stuff. He has a lot of contacts. I would say for percent wise, probably 40%, 30 to 40% that we actually close and make an arrest on. That's not very high. 60 to 70%, are getting away with it. And that's kind of where it, like I mentioned before, it's hard to investigate if they're out of state. If we can figure out exactly where they may be through like an IP address, or if they're actually using their real name. That's the other hard part, is a lot of these people don't use their real name, and they're not using a legitimate address. I had a different, completely separate case where kind of that vehicle one I talked about, they used an address in Milwaukee. I went to go follow up at that address, and it ended up being an abandoned lot. So now my job is getting harder because the address they used is an abandoned lot. Now, how am I going to track this person down? They actually used their real name. I was able to figure out where their actual address was. Then I actually went to their real address, things like that. But that's the hard part with arresting these people. They don't use real names. They use fake phone numbers or phone numbers that can't be traced. When we call phone numbers back or when we look phone numbers up, most of the time, like if you look up 414-761-5300, that's the police department's number. If you have the software to look phone numbers up, it'll tell you Greenfield Police Department. Or if you look my phone number up, it's going to say it's Garrett Olson's phone number. But these phone numbers, when we look them up, it has no person or no business associated with it. So now it makes it even more difficult to figure out. And then the same thing, like I said before, try calling that number back, goes straight to voicemail or it's disconnected. I get that a lot where I call it back. This phone has been disconnected. How can it be disconnected? They just called me 10 minutes ago. So it's harder to find these people. I guess that's the good part of it, is if it's through your bank and they reimburse you, you got your money back. now it turns into it's the bank's issue, not your issue. So hopefully it never happens to anyone. Fortunately, it's happened to me. It's happened to my grandma. It's happened to a lot of people I know. Obviously, all the cases that we take in Greenfield, it happens a lot. But yeah, just try to be self-conscious. Don't be paranoid. I know it sounds like I gotta be paranoid. I can't answer my phone. I can't open my email. Don't take it like that. No, just look at everything with a little bit of grain of salt, you know.
Recently, if I could, a couple of things. Like
Mm-hmm.
now, third call and political donation call or something like that. That just started.
Yeah.
Month.
Yeah. So one of the people here, they mentioned on their phone that it shows up as a charity call or a political call or a scam call. And which is nice that, you know, technology is getting to that point where it already is telling us, hey, this is probably scam. Okay, hang up, not answer. Or same with the charity or the political one, which probably hang up on political one. But yeah, so those are nice because then you can kind of see, all right, this isn't somebody I really want to talk to today. You know, if you're going to do a charity, like I mentioned before with the one question there, if with the robo police ones, go to that actual place, you know, go to St. Vincent de Paul, go to the Salvation Army, go to the police departments, wherever, maybe St. Jude Hospital, you know, actually go there. Although like my grandma, she actually does send money to St. Jude, but you know, if you can go to the place, yeah.
Really.
Well, and I think she was just doing automatic payments for like the St. Jude donation, so she just had a certain amount taken out of her account every month to donate to there. But if you can go to the actual place, I would suggest going to the actual place if you want to make a charity donation, something like that. And then yeah, with the other ones with scam likely, you know, just don't even answer those. If it's a political call, probably don't need to answer that one either. They're probably, you know, vote for me, or are you going to support this person? And you got better things to do than answer that call at that point in time. So any other questions or on online here too with the Zoom? Doesn't look like there's any new ones on here. Any other questions? No. Right. Well, thank you for having me. And if you have any questions later on, want to talk, I'll be here for a little bit longer. So
Thank you, Officer Olson. We greatly appreciate your time with us tonight.
thank you.
Thanks everyone for being on the webinar as well. Have a good night.
Thank you.